Let's dive deeper into our if, elif, else control structures so we can better understand how they work and when to use them. First of all, the if statement. This executes code if the given condition is true. It's always a true-false deal, yes, no. And so if a condition is met, run some code. A real-world analogy is if it's raining, take an umbrella. And the Python equivalent to that would be we could create a variable called umbrella needed and assign it the value of false or Boolean false. We could create another variable called is raining and assign that the value of true, saying, oh, hey, it's raining. Then we have our control structure, our conditional if is raining. So is raining does indeed evaluate to true because it is raining is true. Then an umbrella needed is true. So we'll flip the value of umbrella needed from false to true. So that's a simple example of how we would do this in Python. And a few things to note here, just with the syntax of our if statements. If is a reserved keyword. We cannot use it for anything else. Otherwise, Python will throw an error. But if we use it in this condition mechanism, we start out by saying if, and then everything that proceeds after that will be our condition, which will either evaluate to true or false. And we've learned about truthy and falsy values. This condition could be, we could say if, and then put a list there, a list variable. If that list variable has contents, that's truthy, so it would evaluate to true. If it's an empty list, it would evaluate to false. So lots of things that we can do with this condition, but ultimately it's either true or false. And then following that condition, we have our colon. We always need that. That's just how Python has defined this mechanism. And then we need to indent 4 spaces or a tab to match the rest of our Python code. And then it will run this code that is indented if this condition is true. We could have many, many lines of code underneath here. All of them would be indented the same level if they are all to be run under our if condition, if they are all directly under our if condition. They could be indented further under other circumstances as well. But none of them, if they need to be evaluated under this if condition, none of them would align up here with our if keyword. They all need to be indented at least one level or further. That's how Python knows whatever's to be run in here is part of this condition. So under this circumstance, run this code. Let's continue on with our else statement now. So the else statement, I want to talk about this right after our if statement, because a lot of the time we will see an if-else scenario. So if a condition is met, do something. Otherwise, in all other conditions, do something else. And that's what our else statement gives us. It executes code if the preceding condition or conditions were not met. In other words, if they were all evaluated to false. In this example, we have a condition. So if this condition evaluates to false, then we will execute the code underneath our else statement here. We'll execute that code. A real-world analogy would be if it's raining, take an umbrella. Otherwise, wear sunglasses. So just a simple analogy, may or may not, be 100% accurate, but I hope it can help you understand that we're just saying in every other instance, wear sunglasses. So the else needs to match with the indentation of our if statement. So you see if and else, they're both indented the same level. And we'll indent under else the same way we would indent under if, matching our indentation. 4 spaces or a tab by default. And then we will execute that code. So that's a little bit about the else statement. Moving on to the elif statement. This, another reserved keyword, checks additional conditions if the previous conditions were false. For example, if it's raining, take an umbrella. Else, if, then we have another condition that it needs to match. It's windy, wear a jacket. Otherwise, all other conditions, wear sunglasses. So the if it's raining, that would match this. If it's raining, take an umbrella, the code for that. Else if it's windy, condition 2, let's say it is windy, so that's true, wear a jacket, the code for condition 2. Otherwise, under all other circumstances, execute this code, wear sunglasses. So as we can see here, these are all lining up, the if, elif, and else, at the same level of indentation. The if and elif match a condition, whereas the else has no condition because it's like our catch-all. It's saying all other circumstances. Elif, this code that's indented under elif directly underneath, will only be executed if everything above it executes to false. If every other if or elif statement above it executes to false, then it will potentially execute as long as the condition also matches. The else will only evaluate if everything above it, all if and elif statements, evaluate to false. Otherwise, it will not evaluate. So we're going to definitely show some examples of this coming up. I will show you some examples and help solidify these concepts. It may be a bit confusing until we see some more use cases. But I think in time and with repetition, it will sink in for you, and you can see that it's a very powerful tool in Python, these if, elif, else control structures.